So here's another video dealing with measures of relative standing. Example 1 in the previous video dealt with z-scores, which are measures of relative standing. In this video, we're going to talk about two other measures of relative standing. The first, percentiles. Percentiles are measures of location, and they divide a data set up into 100 groups with about 1% of the values in each group. The other example of measures of relative standing are quartiles. Quartiles are measures of location as well, denoted Q sub 1, Q sub 2, and Q sub 3, which divide a data set into 4 groups with about 25% of the values in each group. There is a formula to calculate percentiles, but we're not going to really focus on that formula because the only percentiles that we're going to focus on is the percentiles that are the same as quartiles. So the 25th percentile, the 50th percentile, and the 75th percentile are the 3 percentiles that we're going to focus on. And the calculator will find these for us. So first, if you were to sort your data in order from the smallest data value all the way to the largest data value, and you would put about 25% here, 25% here, 25% here, and 25% here. The 25th percentile, what that means is it's a value that separates the lower 25% of the data values from the upper 75%. And the first quartile is that same number. It is a value that separates the lower 25% of the values from the upper 75%. The 50th percentile, or P sub 50, is the same as the second quartile and is also the same as the median of the data set. Remember from measures of center, the median of the data set splits your data in half when it is put in order. So the 50th percentile, the second quartile, and the median are all the same number. And what they do is split your data set in half, where you have about 50% below this number and 50% above this number. Next, we have the 75th percentile and the third quartile. These two numbers are the same number, and they're a value that separates the lower 75% of data values from the upper 25%. So let's look at example 2. My statistics class took their final exam. The scores of the 25 students are listed below. So here are the results from the final exam, one of my stat classes. And so to find it by hand, what you would have to do is sort the data in order from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. And basically, we already discussed how to find the median. Well, to find this value, you would just find the median of the lower 50% of the data, and you would find the median of the upper 50%. But we're not going to spend time doing it by hand since the graphing calculator will do it for us. So the first question. Find the score that separates the lower 50% of the students' scores from the upper 50%. So we're looking for a value that separates the lower 50% from the upper 50%, or that splits your data set in half. So what are we actually looking for here? Well, we're looking for the median of the data set, this number here. There's 3 names for it: the median, the second quartile, or the 50th percentile. And for time's sake, I already put the data values into the calculator under list 1. And so to find the median and the first quartile and third quartile, you go over to the stat button, select the right arrow to highlight the word calculate at the top of the calculator. The very first thing you see is one variable statistics, Press enter to open that menu. And then you input the list that you typed your data in. I use list 1, so I'm just going to leave it there. And you scroll down to calculate. Press enter. And so it's going to give us the average, the standard deviation, all that information, but we're not looking for that. We're actually looking for the median. Well, the median is 75. So if I ask you to find the second quartile or the 50th percentile, that's the same thing as the median. The calculator gives it to us as the median. The median of the data set is 75, which means 50% of the class made below a 75 and 50% of the class made above a 75. Second question, find the 25th percentile. Well, the 25th percentile is a value that separates the lower 25% of the scores from the highest 75% of the scores. The 25th percentile, remember from up here, is the same number as Q1. The calculator gives us Q1 and Q3. It doesn't give us the percentile, so you have to know that the 25th percentile and the first quartile are the same thing. So this question is asking us for the 25th percentile. So that's going to be Q1, which is 58.8. So the first quartile, or the 25th percentile, is 58.5. So find the final exam score that separates the lower 75% of scores from the upper 25%. So this score here separates the lower 75% from the upper 25%. So P75, the 75th percentile, or the third quartile. Well, the calculator gives us the third quartile, which is the same thing as the 75th percentile. So the third quartile is 85. So the value of the third quartile is 85. And the last question, find the range of the middle 50% of the test scores. Well, the range, we know from the previous section, is the difference between the highest and lowest number. But we're not talking about the range of the entire data set. We're talking about the range of the middle 50% of the test scores. So here's 25%, here's 25%. So the middle most 50% is the values between the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile. So we're looking for the range of the middle most 50% of the data values. So what that is actually defined to be is the interquartile range. So you take the difference between the two interquartiles. So Q3 minus Q1. So the range of the middle 50% of the test scores is the interquartile range, IQR. Simply take Q3 minus Q1. Well, we found in the previous examples, Q3 was 85, minus Q1 was 58.5. When you take that difference, you end up with 26.5. So the range for the middle 50% of the test scores is 26.5.